Hello.
You want me to move up there and facilitate this now?
We have sound.
10 minutes.
Okay, welcome to tonight's program. It'll start at approximately 2 minutes.
I've got sunglasses.
I said, yeah, and we just went to yeah, what's up? I want to look like that. They're actually like wax coated. She is. Come here. She's not gonna have her. It is. And I do the blocking. It's probably
Hello. Good evening. Hi, everybody.
You're not the boss of me. but I
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I'll sit down then.
Okay, just a couple quick things. A reminder to turn off your cell phones before a speaker comes up. There's a QR code by the membership or the sign-in table, and this one that will be on the table where I'm sitting. And then there's also paper copies for you to review tonight's program. So if you could please do that, I'd appreciate it. Tonight, our speaker is Liza Laird. Laird, ooh. She corrects me. She comes to us from New York. She has a couple things. There's a book for sale. If you haven't bought Yoga of Yarn, you can buy it. She can do online payment, or you can pay cash $28.95. There is also information about an upcoming retreat that she has on the table where you signed in. So if you're interested in that, it's in March.
Yes, March 2025.
March 2025. So you have time to decide. So grab that postcard if you're interested. And Liza comes to us from New York. She did 2 fantastic programs last night. They were wonderful. She is going to talk to us tonight about yoga and yarn and knitting and kind of how to stretch and keep yourself healthy as you're knitting. She has been knitting since she was 8 years old. She has been doing yoga and teaching yoga for 15 years. She has 3 kids, 3 alpacas, 10 chickens, and 1 giant acorn rabbit, which we're all kind of jealous of. So please join me in welcoming Liza Laird.
Oh, I prepped the bird too.
Oh, I can get it. There's one over there.
Oh, and so you can keep knitting, but you will, as you're knitting, she's going to do a few stretches and show you how, as you're knitting, instead of just sitting and knitting and forgetting about things and getting your hands cramped, your back hurting, things you can do as you're knitting. So it's great that you're doing it now. Hopefully you'll learn a couple techniques to help you go forward.
Hopefully. I'm going to test out talking without the microphone. Is my voice carrying to the back? Yeah? Okay. If I get quiet or too loud, let me know, okay? So I'm so honored to be here. Again, my name is Liza Laird. I'm the author of Yoga of Yarn, A Knitter's Handbook for Self-Discovery. This book was published in 2022. Melanie Falick was the editor and she wrote the foreword. It was a complete honor to be able to work with her. And she'll be on my Yoga of Yarn retreat this coming March. It's March 25th, thank you. 25th through the 28th, 2025. It's a midweek retreat. And I'm going to start a little bit by talking about the retreats because it leads really nicely into the rest of what I'm going to share with you. So the yoga and yarn retreats started about 15 years ago. I was working a corporate job. I decided to leave it. I was in my early 20s and I was like, who needs a 401k and insurance? I can be a yoga instructor. And it worked out, thankfully. But no, I just was not thriving in that culture. And I decided that I wanted to follow my passions, which were yoga and knitting. I started really young. My mom taught me to knit when I was 8. She introduced me to yoga when I was 11 or 13. And I had a young teacher who, in one of my classes, who taught me to meditate. So it's always been a part of my life. And when I decided to leave my steady job to start teaching yoga, I was leading yoga retreats. My first retreat was actually to Peru. In the jungle, and it was a brand new resort and there was no hot water. It was very interesting, but we did it and it was a lot of fun. But after that, I started doing yoga and knitting retreats because to me, they're a perfect complement to each other. You can be meditating as you knit. And you can knit and practice yoga, although you do not have to be able to do a tree pose and keep knitting. That's not what Yoga of Yarn is about. It's more about bringing a little bit of spirituality, mindfulness, and presence to your knitting. The Yoga and Yarn retreats are 4-day trips where there's multiple yoga classes, some gentle, some a little bit more flowy, but there's also learning knitting techniques and skills. And on the March trip, Melanie Falick will be there talking about the stories our stitches tell and her book, Making a Life. But even though I absolutely love the retreats and it's one of my favorite things to do during the year, I wanted people to be able to practice Yoga of Yarn at home. I didn't want it to just be a 4-day thing and then you go back to knitting and forget all about movement, meditation, and breath work. So that's where Yoga of Yarn came in. Might look like a small book, but it is chock full of lots of stuff. There's over 55 different practices in there, small to maybe longer practices, and completely accessible, really an introduction to these ideas of yoga and meditating for knitters. There's also 4 knitting patterns in there with some meditations that go together. So I could continue to describe the book, but instead we're going to try some fun little exercises. Now, one thing I say on my retreats and in all of my classes is it's always choose your own adventure. Even when I write knitting patterns, I send them out into the world, and I really hope that people will make it their own and use their own intuitive nature about themselves to do what they need and do what you need in those moments. So do not feel obligated to go along with what I'm saying right now. Just soak it up and see what resonates for you, what works for you. So one of the first concepts I actually want to introduce is something called mudras. Mudras are translated to being hand gestures. One of the most popular yoga hand gestures that you're probably familiar with is Anjali Mudra, or prayer hands. And this one is amazing for knitters because, yes, you could just do this, right? Let your hands be relaxed, your elbows to your sides, your fingers chill. And this is Anjali Mudra. Or you could press your fingers firmly together, activate the muscles of your arms, and feel your collarbones spreading. Now, if you were to add this to your practice, your life, maybe 5, 10 seconds, 20 seconds of holding this, of holding an active posture where you're actually thinking about pressing your palms together, breathing steadily. As knitters, it's wonderful to strengthen the arms and stretch the wrists at the same time. And you can even play with inhaling, lifting the hands up a little bit, exhaling, lowering the hands down, and you'll feel the flexibility or lack of flexibility in your wrists as you lower down. And just go gently and lift up and lower. And you can, of course, just stay still. But the idea is to explore and see what works for your body, what doesn't, and what kind of challenge you or possibly pushes you to an edge that you maybe didn't know you had. And then you can just gently release and shake it out. This hand shaking is also a really great way just to get the blood flowing and reactivate the fingers and the hands and the wrists. So let's say you're knitting for a while, texting, typing on the computer. You can just do this for a little bit and then go back about your day. I'm going to talk a little bit more about mudras, but I wanted to say one thing. Please feel free to speak up, raise a hand, or ask me questions as I'm going. It's totally a great way to go about it and have it be a little bit more interactive. I'll also leave time at the end for some questions. So another mudra you could do is chin mudra. So bring your thumb and your pointer finger together. Pretend I'm sitting. I'll sit for a second. And have the backs of your hands onto your thighs, okay? Or onto the table. And I'll just demonstrate standing up so I can move around a little bit. So it's a very gentle connection of the pointer finger and the thumb. The key with mudras is it's about an energetic cycle. We're using them to ground ourselves. This version of this mudra with the palms facing up is actually to allow us to receive energy. There's another version of the mudra where you can turn your palms towards towards your thighs to be a little bit more grounding. Now, if this concept of grounding or receiving energy from the universe doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't need to, but I'll try to explain it a little bit. The idea is when we have our palms up and open, we're welcoming energy in, we're welcoming in the universe, right? If we turn our palms down towards the ground or press into our thighs, that can allow us to just root into the earth a little bit more and connect more. The belief or understanding from a yogic perspective is that there's always energy flowing through us and around us. And we can use these hand gestures or mudras to seal that energy, to allow it to come in, or to seal it into our body to allow it to ground us a little bit more. Now, the fun thing, at least I think it's fun, the fun thing about thinking about mudras is you can turn your knitting into a mudra with conscious awareness of how you hold your knitting needles. Now, I'm not saying that you need to hold your knitting needles in a particular way, right? You don't have to be an English knitter or continental or whatever. But the idea is to be aware of how gently or softly you're holding your needles, be aware of the texture of your knitting needle, and bringing in that awareness of the texture of your yarn, your needles, if they're copper versus wood, whatever it is, it brings in a way for you to acknowledge your senses and be a little bit more mindful. Now, mindfulness is a term that is often used in marketing these days, but one way to think about what mindfulness means is a conscious, like a choice to be present and aware in this moment, in here and now, not what happened a second ago and not what might happen in a few seconds, but what is happening right here. And we can use our hand gesture of holding our knitting needles and knitting by being present and aware with what our stitches are doing and what our needles are, and just as a way to use our knitting to practice an idea of meditation. So you can do a mudra like Anjali Mudra and breathe, and that can be your meditation. Or you could choose to allow the process of your knitting stitches to be your meditation. Last night I taught. I got to make myself laugh sometimes. So I'm a mom of 3, and I often refer to things in the royal we, I like to say, when I'm like talking about me and my husband to my children, and it confuses the heck out of them. But I have a habit of saying, and we taught, or we did. But anyway, so last night we did the brioche class, and in brioche, I find it to be one of the most meditative stitches once you get it down. You know, you've got to get past that beginner's mind and through the process of learning it. But once you get into the rhythm, it becomes as smooth as doing garter stitch. And I use it as my meditation by using the mantra. So if you're not familiar with the term mantra is basically the repetition of a singular word. Now, from a yoga perspective, a traditional mantra would be Om, which people repeat Om at the end of a yoga class, or just say Om over and over again, and that would be their mantra meditation. Or maybe they might say Om Shanti. But some more modern yoga teachers and philosophers believe that it doesn't necessarily have to be a Sanskrit word. You don't have to pronounce it properly or anything. The idea is to pick a word that you focus on and allow that to be your repetition and allow that to be your focus. So in brioche, I like the brioche rounds to be called bark, and the burp rounds, really. The pearl rounds are burps. So you're barking and burping, and you just can kind of keep repeating that. Slip one yarn over, burp, slip one yarn over, burp. And allow the stitch pattern to be the repetitive thought in your mind to keep you present and focused in the moment. Because concentration is ultimately what we're looking for in the beginning, not pure meditation. Because we just need to learn to concentrate and be present. and allow something like slip one yarn over burp to be our focus so that we forget to think about, oh, I have 10 pounds of laundry to do and I've got to do dishes and maybe I need to write that email and oh, I forgot to respond to that text. And those things are going to come up, right? We're not going to clear our heads completely, but we can use our stitch patterns as ways to try to block out all that extra thought that inevitably will pop up, but it can just be something for us to remember to keep coming back to. Okay. Great. I think somebody's trying to get in. Oh, yes, of course.
I find counting gets me there.
Yes.
Counting the stitches.
Yeah, definitely. So I was teaching at Cream City Yarn today, and that's one of the things we talked about, how you can use your counting of your stitches as another way to be present and meditate. And you can even use it as a way to focus your breathing. So a lot of what yoga is it's beyond being able to stretch your arms. There's meditation, there's breath work, there's ethical practices. And breath work can be as simple as counting to 4 on your inhale and 4 on your exhale. Or often if I'm doing color work, my color change might be I'll inhale for 3 stitches of red and exhale for my 5 stitches of blue. And I take the color change or whatever the color pattern is as a way to remind myself to keep inhaling and exhaling. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes if I get with a complicated stitch pattern, I stop breathing. Which just seems silly because it's knitting, but it happens, right? You get all focused and you're concentrated and you really want to make something work, so maybe you stop breathing. So if we can take a deep breath and allow ourselves to inhale and exhale and possibly follow our knitting stitch pattern or our color work, it's a way for us to be present in the moment. So I want everyone to try a breathing practice right now. You can keep your hands knitting if you'd like, or take your hands to one hand to your abdomen and one hand to your chest. And I want you just to take a nice deep inhale through your nose, eyes closed or open, and then just exhale out your nose or out your mouth. Find whatever's comfortable for you. And do that 2 more times and just feel where your body touches your hands. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhale and exhale. All right. If you close your eyes, you can open them up. If you had your hands on your belly, you can head back to knitting or just relax those hands for a minute. So where, if anyone wants to answer me, did you feel your body touching your hands? Did you feel the body in the chest, like breathing into your chest mostly, into your belly? Neither? It's coming out your toes? Say it again.
Tummy.
Tummy?
Yeah, definitely tummy.
Yeah.
The center. That's right. Well, that's what
Yeah. Anatomy might have something to do with where you're feeling breathing. I get it. So as much as we can, we want to try to fill our abdomen and our chest as we're breathing. Because a lot of times what can happen, and we don't even realize it, and part of it is, culturally, maybe we were told to suck our belly in, and then we're not breathing here, and we're just breathing up here in our chest. But if we can, we want to be able to expand our abdomen or even our side ribs and our back body. So this whole area is expanding as you inhale, and then as you exhale, releasing. So you're getting nice and blown up like a balloon, and then you're exhaling and releasing. And by allowing yourself to sit and really build and breathe that abdomen breath, it can just help with the relaxation. And there are more, technical breathing practices. It's called pranayama in yoga. But one of the best ways to just start is to have more awareness of where your breathing is happening. And you can even play with adding in, Nice big belly breaths as you're taking 6 stitches in and then, knitting as you're going out. And you can just keep that flow going as a way to focus and have concentration. So, how does everybody feel about standing?
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Yes, let's.
It's optional, of course. You do not have to, but if you'd like to, I will give a version sitting as well. But if you do choose to stand with your feet just about hip distance apart. Okay? Now, hips distance apart is actually the width of your fists together. So you can kind of just bend your knees a little bit and stick your hands down maybe between your knees, and that's kind of about how wide your feet might be. Okay. Now, of course, I had you stand and figure out your hip width, but you might be hitting a neighbor, so watch out and stagger yourselves. Actually, you know what? It's okay. We're going to stretch our arms forward. I'm going to modify slightly what we're going to do. Okay. So you're going to stretch your arms forward and just bring your palms facing me, so the fingertips are facing up towards the ceiling like this. And you're trying to have the arms at shoulder height. Exactly. And then just imagine there's someone pulling on these fingers and you're stretching your hands forward towards your face a little bit more. And then you'll just exhale, release, and point the fingertips towards the floor. And keep breathing as you do this. And then inhale, reach your fingertips, as I walk into a chair, up towards the ceiling. Yep. And then exhale and release. And then just lower your arms for a moment and just bend your knees and do a little bounce. So we sit a lot, right, in general. One, because we're knitters and weavers and spinners and everything, but also because we drive and we work and everything else. So supposedly, which I believe, you're supposed to get up every 20 minutes and move and stretch. But you don't have to, walk a mile when you do that. If you stand up, get your feet hip distance apart, and just do a nice little bounce. Maybe stretch your arms forward like this, just for a little bit. And this can be your yoga. This can be your movement. This can be you waking up. Start to roll out your wrists. And then if it feels appropriate for your arms, start to stretch your arms up overhead as you're rolling your wrists. Okay. Now, can you roll the wrists the opposite direction? Sometimes that does a lot. Yeah. There you go. And then slowly start to lower the arms down. And then you can just wiggle it. Okay, great. Come back to sitting. And I want you to try sitting at the edge of your chair. So one thing to think about when you're knitting is your posture and how you're sitting. You don't always have to be sitting exactly like this when you're knitting, right? Because, well, that just wouldn't be fun. So there are going to be moments when you're sitting back, you are propped up with a pillow and things. But sometimes, let's say you do feel like you've been knitting for a while, you just want to wake up your body a little bit more. You can scoot yourself so you're at the edge of your seat, your knees are right over your ankles. And you can keep knitting like this. And then I just want you to try to lift one leg. So I'm going to lift my left leg up first. And I'm going to point my toe towards the floor and then flex the foot. And then point and flex. And I'm keeping the knee bent to start and just point and flex. And then just lower that leg down and try the other side. So lift the other leg, point the toe up towards the ceiling. Towards the ground you point, and then you flex. Point and flex just a few times. Okay. Now, release that leg and try the first leg you did. So lift your left leg again. You can keep the knee bent or maybe say, like, what happens if I try to straighten my leg? You can always hold onto the back of your thigh with your hands, but this time roll out your ankle one direction. And then switch directions. Slowly release and try the other side. Lift that leg up. You can try straightening it out. Maybe hold onto the thigh if you'd like to. Roll the leg the foot, not the leg, and roll the ankle the other way. Slowly release, and then just kind of let your knees knock to the side, and so on. Okay. So that was even longer of a stretch than you need to between each knitting breaks, but even just a little bit of that here and there can allow the blood to flow again, the body to wake up, and allow you to knit for long periods of time. I have I can't remember, Nicole, if this retreat goer was on one of the Vermont retreats that you were on, but one year I had a retreat goer who came with a broken ankle. Was she on your trip? No? Oh, okay. Because she had been knitting for a really long time, and I guess she was sitting cross-legged on the floor when she did it, and she stood up, and her leg was asleep, and she didn't realize it, and she started walking and broke her ankle. So, rolling out those ankles, keeping your legs awake is a great way to avoid that.
Okay. Do we know?
Yeah. And I will say that sitting on the floor and knitting is my absolute favorite. And if sitting on the floor is not for you, that is totally fine. You never need to go there. But one thing you can do when you're sitting in a chair to help prop yourself up and be in more alignment is to sit on a little bit of a blanket. So I'm going to just show you from the side, it's okay if you can't see, I'll try to describe it, but I'm kind of rounding into my spine here because I have no support. My hips are lower than my knees. I'm exaggerating the position by having my toes lifted. But when you sit like this, you dump into your lower back and compress your spine. So what you can do is I'm going to have an imaginary blanket underneath my hips. Slide a blanket underneath your hips so I lift up out of my spine and I don't have that tightness in my hips, and it just gives you a little bit more of a lift on your hips so you can sit tall, because that's what can help you strengthen your spine and allow you to sit and knit. So rather than sink back, you're lifted up, and over time it can be really wonderful for your posture. Does everybody have the ability to do a little bit more yoga? Okay, so we can, did you have a question or?
No, I'm saying yes.
Oh, okay. That's good. Okay, so you can stay seated. I'm just gonna be standing, so hopefully you can see me. We're gonna take your right hand to the left side of your head and very gently start to tilt your right ear to your right shoulder. Now this shoulder is gonna wanna pop up as best you can. Try to relax that shoulder down. Now, if you're sitting in the chair, you'll take this free hand and grab onto the chair and then start to tilt more off to the side. Yeah, exactly. So you can use the leverage of the chair if you want to pull in opposition. Now, don't lift your hand off your head just yet, but just bring yourself upright. Take your opposite hand now to the side of your head. We're going to do a little vogue here. And you're going to use this opposite hand to push your head up and release. It doesn't have to happen every time. There are definitely moments where I'm like, oh, I'm stretching and I forgot to do it. But sometimes when we're like this for an extended period of time and stretching this side of our neck, we end up overusing our neck muscles by just lifting ourselves up. You want to use the strength of your hand instead to lift yourself up, just to give your neck a little bit of a break, because it works hard all day long. Let's try that on the other side. No, this way. Take your left hand up to the right side of your head. Bring your left ear to your left shoulder. And just try to feel that length across the side here and let this shoulder release a little bit. And then if you have your opposite arm, your right hand, you can grab onto the side of your chair and maybe tilt off to the side a little bit more. You don't have to go that extra little bit, but if you're interested, you can try. Yeah. And then you can bring yourself back upright. Take your opposite hand to the side of your head to push yourself up. And there you go. That's it. Great. All right, we're going to try a little finger strengthener. So again, you can stay seated. Your hands can be on the table in front of you, on your thighs, whatever works for you. I'm just demoing up here. You're going to bring your pointer finger and your thumb together and press, then gently release, and bring your middle finger and thumb together. Press and release. Bring your ring finger and thumb together. Press, release. Your pinky finger and thumb together. Press, release. Let's go again. Pinky finger and thumb. Press, release. Ring finger and thumb. Press, release. Middle finger and thumb. Press, release. And pointer finger and thumb. Press, release. And then just shake it out. All right.
So if I could just share an acronym that my teachers in Chair Yoga use.
Mhm.
Cheerios. Oh. You might remember
Mhm.
how to do it, yeah.
All right. So from our seated position, we're going to try a twist. Before I sit down for it, I just want to show something. When we're twisting, I want it to be gentle and not huge. Colleen, I just noticed you're behind that pillar. I'm sorry. Okay. You took class yesterday, so you're familiar. Okay, so when we twist, we're going to twist from the mid to upper back. We're going to try to avoid twisting the low back and the hips. So that means it's a small movement. So if it's available to you, I'm going to have you take your fingertips to your shoulders and have your elbows pointing out to the side like that. Okay. The elbows can be down if your shoulders have a rotator cuff or anything going on. They don't need to be. Oh yes, and watch out for people, or maybe it's a friendly little knocking. Okay. Okay. So we'll take an inhale to lengthen. And then we're going to exhale and turn to the left ever so slightly. Just turn to one side. We're going to do both sides, so don't worry if you go the opposite direction. Okay? And then inhale, come back to center. Exhale, twist right over to the other side. Inhale, come to center. Exhale, twist to the first side again. Inhale, center. Exhale, twist. Inhale, come back to center, release the arms, wiggle and shake it out. All right. So in a more traditional yoga class, those twists would be deeper and you would be like bending together and trying to interlace your hands on the other side. That is not the goal or the need when we're doing yoga for knitters, or really ever. You don't really ever need to go that deep. The beauty of twisting is it's turning your spine. So it's giving your spine a moment to do something different than it's been doing all day. And I always like to think of it as like a sponge, right? So you're like wringing out a sponge and it's kind of releasing toxins from your body that will eventually, come out from sweat and other things. So it's important to keep the body hydrated and create these twists just for the health of your spine. Now, we're going to try to open up our hips a little bit from a seated position. I will say that if you have any hip replacements, hip injuries, or anything, you are going to avoid this. Also, knees might not like this. But I'm going to give some modifications that will hopefully work for you, because you never have to go to the full expression of the pose. The earlier stages will still give you the same opening and benefit. So we're going to try that out. So you're seated in your position with your hips towards the front of the chair. Your knees are over your ankles. And we're going to just lift one leg. So you can lift your left leg up and just hold onto the back of your thigh. And this can be right where you are. You can start to open the leg out to the side and then bring it closer to your knee. And we're just going to rock that leg open from side to side. There we go. And again, you can stay right here. Maybe you want to try to get a little bit deeper compression here and bring that knee in. But if you have any knee injuries, please avoid this. But you can take your hands to your shin and then gently rock from side to side. Okay. And then we'll just gently release that leg, and we're going to move right over to the other side. So bring your other leg up, your right leg up, hold onto the back of that thigh. You can also do it without your hands and work on strengthening and flexibility at the same time. And then just open the leg out to the side and then bring the knee in. And open to the side and bring the knee in. Yeah, no hands. That works too. There we go. And then if you did so on the other side, you can bring your hands to the front of the shin and try to bring that knee in a little bit more, still keeping your chest lifted. But each side is different. Sometimes right and left are so opposite you can't do that, and that's completely okay because we're all human, right? And then release that leg down. We'll try that again, lifting that leg up. So I've got my left leg lifted. I'm holding onto the opposite thigh. Not the opposite thigh. I'm holding onto my hamstring. You can stay just like this, or see if you can grab your ankle. So my right hand is holding onto my left ankle, and I can stay like this. And if you can't see me, whoop, maybe I can do it without falling down. Here we go. There we go. You can hold onto your ankle like this, okay? And stay right here. You'll feel a little bit more opening in that outer hip. Or you cross your ankle over your thigh and try to open up the inner thigh and outer thigh with that leg crossed. I find this is a great way to be able to continue to knit while opening my hips up, but you don't have to keep knitting like that. So your leg can be crossed like that. Okay. And then slowly release, shake it out, and try the other side. So you can lift your right leg up. Again, stay like that with holding onto your hamstring. You can play with opening that hip up, or maybe try grabbing your ankle with your opposite hand, bringing that knee in, opening up your outer hip so you could stay here, or maybe you can cross your ankle over your thigh. Each side is different. One side will definitely feel more flexible than the other. And that's it. And gently release and shake it out. All right, great. So if you were to try to take any of these practices home and do them, there's really not much you need to change about your day-to-day life or your knitting practice. You don't really need too many props other than yourself and a chair, right? Or wherever and however you want to sit and knit. But the idea is to just try to remember to add a little bit of movement into your knitting practice. You can be as simple as, like I showed before, the rolling out of the ankles as you continue to knit. But one thing that I like to offer as an idea is creating a sacred space in your home where you're knitting. So no matter the size of your home, big or small, just pick even just a corner or something where that is your spot where you go and you knit and you practice your yoga. And the more you show up in that same spot every day or every other day, the easier it becomes to make it a habit and have it be a part of your life and what it is that you're doing. When I lived in Manhattan, tiny apartment, I had all my yarn in a little shoebox under the bed, and I had my yoga mat under the bed, and I'd take it out and practice it when I can. Now I live in the middle of nowhere with a little bit more space, so I have a sacred wall of yarn where I have all my yarn and I practice my yoga in front of my yarn. And it just makes it easier because I have a spot where I'm going to go every time I practice. And it creates also an appreciation. So it's actually, I have two walls, a yarn wall of stuff I'm going to knit, and then a wall of things that are finished knits on display. So I can actually appreciate what I've done. Because I was telling Nicole, I do have a habit of giving away all of my finished objects, but the ones that I do keep, I'm keeping this one. Of the ones that I do keep, I want to remember what I've done because I have a habit of forgetting, that I was able to do that cable pattern or do something else. My children are 7, 4, and 2, so my brain's kind of shot right now, I'll be honest. So I like to make things easier so that I can set myself up for success. Not only appreciate where I've been, but know that I can go sit and practice and be present. It's just easier considering at least my chaotic life at the moment. And yoga and knitting have always been a savior for me, and it's the only way that I've been able to go through the past 10 years, and I know that I'll be able to, experience the next 60 years of my life. Mm-hmm. If I'm 41, I'll be 101. As long as I can keep knitting and practicing yoga, whatever form that may be, right? We all, know that old adage joke, like I knit so I don't kill people. I think that's a little dramatic. I've never actually felt that way, but I knit to be able to be myself. I move to be able to feel like myself because it's that creating of energy that allows me to be present and here with you. And I just truly hope that even one little grain of what I said sinks in and helps you move forward so that you can continue to knit with joy, move, and be present in this beautiful and beautiful life. So I feel like that's a good point to stop and ask for questions. I do want to say one thing about my book, actually, before I end. So I independently published Yoga of Yarn. And the reason I chose that route was I wanted to keep it off of Amazon. I wanted to support local yarn shops like Cream City and be able to wholesale to them and not have them have to compete with the prices of Amazon. So you could buy my book here tonight, or Cream City has some in stock as well. I go around the country teaching these classes, trying to not only spread Yoga of Yarn, but also to be able to support local yarn shops. So.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that extra step.
Yes.
Time in your thing. I haven't independently published, but I have a few things to do.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I'm happy to stand here and do a dance, or you can come up and ask me questions, or continue on with your, I don't know, your agenda.
Questions?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Meg Swanson with her mother Elizabeth Zimmerman. She, when her mother was going through dementia, even though she couldn't yet, she felt grounded just holding those needles in her hand.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, she really did.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
I just have a question, like, so when you're sitting and knitting, how frequently should you stretch? It's like every 20 minutes? Is that what you said?
Every 20 minutes. I generally set a timer when I actually have more than 20 minutes to sit and knit. I'll set a timer to remind myself. Because otherwise I could definitely sit for hours. Right now it's more like 5 stitches and I'm done and I'm ready for the next thing. But as long as you can make time for it. And but sometimes that every 20 minutes you don't necessarily have to stand up. You could just shake out the hands, roll out your shoulders, and go back to it. But as long as if you're sitting for an hour, at some point you do stand up and just move. Just need a little hip shake and a little bit of movement. Yeah.
Your timing is excellent because I took a train trip recently and my back is totally wrecked. And I didn't understand that was why. So I went to a doctor and the nurse said, well, you're vibrating. So I have your book at home already. And I thought I better just try this and it's coming up.
Yeah.
It did relieve some of my pain. So,
Great.
I'm going to take another train trip and I'm going to use it before and after I'm doing it. So.
Well, I'm going to give you another tip. Grab a tennis ball, or I always have a lacrosse ball, or I have these cork yoga balls. And what I do, I always have one in my knitting project bag or even in my car. And I use it, and if in a car it's a little easier, or a train, you just put the ball here. You can just put the ball behind you and give yourself a nice little massage as you're sitting there. And you can knit as you're doing it, and that'll help just relax the muscles enough to be able to hopefully not tighten up.
And now getting up every 20 minutes.
Exactly. Yep. Yes.
Show her the downward dog on the chair.
Yes. Okay. So yesterday I was teaching chair yoga, and
Seriously, my favorite. It felt so good.
And I said, pick one of these and just try them every day. And you can pick whatever you want. But then I was like, but do this one. So I'm going to show you what my absolute favorite is. I just didn't feel like there was enough room in here to do it. But if you feel called to, you can follow along as I go. You can use a table. You can use the wall. I'm going to use the chair as a demonstration. I'll do it 2 times. One, I'm going to put my hands on the back of the chair, and I'm going to press my knuckles down and have my fingers spreading really wide so I can activate the muscles of my arms. And then I'm just gonna walk my hips back and try to get my hips and ankles in line and my spine long. And this is a supported downward facing dog. Okay. And it feels really good, so I don't wanna get out of it. But I'm gonna do it again. So what I recommend the first time you're trying it is somewhere between 2 breaths and 5 breaths. And then you work up to maybe 10 breaths, or even a minute if you'd like to, but that could take 10 years if you want to get it, It's just the thing is small amounts of good quality time. So if you're doing your hands a little bit lower, it's the same thing. You can just bend your knees, plant your hands. You always want to try to put more weight into your knuckles. Don't put weight here, because that's how you end up hurting your wrists. And then you can just walk yourself back, hips over ankles, and get a nice long spine, kind of wag your tail a little bit, and there you go. And that is it. That's illustrated in my book, Yoga of Yarn, somewhere. I also have a few videos on yogaofyarn.com with some of these practices. So if you're like, what on earth did she say? You can go, well, I forgot you're recording. But you can go on yogaofyarn.com and see it. But also in January, I have some classes coming out with creativebug.com, yoga of yarn in video form. Basically, I teach a long version of this class with Creative Bug.
Did you say you do downward dog against the wall?
Yes, do you want me to show that? Yes. Okay, sure. Where's a good wall? I'm gonna do it here on this simply so I'm not sticking my butt in your face. Unless you'd like that, but yeah. Okay, so the hands are gonna be wider. On a wall, your hands are gonna be as about shoulder distance apart. But the key to doing it, if your shoulders are available for this, is to start with your fingertips right at hip height. And then you walk back and you walk back and you walk back until you can get your palms flat on the wall. And you're creating like an L shape here at the wall. Now, if you know that your shoulders are tight and that's not going to work for you starting out, start with your hands just a little bit higher. Maybe start at rib height or even shoulder height. So if you do shoulder height, you just walk back and you create more of an angle rather than the L shape like that. And you can do that like that. Great.
Thank you. Yeah, that one was totally my favorite.
Yeah, my favorite.
I've been drinking on my music cart for years without realizing it was actually yoga yarns. Like it just feels good.
Yeah. Good.
Anybody else?
They have a zoo that actually a zookeeper or somebody came in and actually taught the elephants how to do yoga.
Really?
Yes.
That's wonderful. I love that. I want to see that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's right.
It was really interesting to see these kids.
What is your favorite thing?
Oh,
Okay.
Yoga of Yarn.
Oh, okay.
And then this is where it was made. It's a Bangladesh project, so it helps support women in Bangladesh. Bring money for the
Nice.
So Liza will be hanging out till the end of our meeting. If you're interested in a book, you can get it from her. And I'm going to do some show and tell. And the first one is going to be Patricia, and we're going to turn. We're going to turn around. So because Patricia had surgery and she's on crutches. So instead of making her walk all the way to the front, we're gonna turn around and we're gonna see her wonderful duster. She was at a class last night and I begged her to do this. Isn't it lovely?
Okay, it's a duster and it's made from sheep and alpaca wool. I think it's like 60-40 alpaca. DK weight, the yardage was somewhere over 2,700 yards. Patterns on Valkyrie, it's called Abayomi. and the designer is Donna Yavicino. And the yarn is custom spun from sheep and alpacas that I met and picked the fleeces while they were still on the sheep, and in some cases actually helped shear the animal.
Next up is Lauren.
Or Emily, since you're standing next to her. That's fine.
We're sitting right next.
Oh, nice.
Okay, is it a good distance? Okay, I've owned this book since the year 2000, and that's how long I've been wanting to make this shawl. Let's see, it's made of Issachar Tiffany, or however you say it, 831 yards. It's called Faux Russian Shawl from a gathering of laces, the book. I'm not an expert on Russian lace, so don't ask me, but it's all these sort of diamond motifs in the middle, and then the way the construction is, you first do the bottom border across on just a few stitches. So I only cast on 8 stitches. And then you pick up across the border, knit the whole thing going up, and then the top border is the same, going across. So it's only like wrap 8 at the end too. Because I don't know about you, but I hate to cast on and off. I just wanted it. I guess that's it.
Okay, now it's my turn. So I was also in class last night and Mary caught me and was like, you need to bring that show up. So I have my Monster Doodle cowl. So doodle decks became very popular sometime last year, I think. And I saw the fall doodle deck, picked it up at Sow's Ear last year, and promptly knit a fall doodle hat. And then she came out with a monster doodle deck, and I immediately bought that and made a Halloweeny cowl. So I have like ghosties and an eek and bats and black cats. And so I have all of the different little fun Halloweeny things, and I can pass it around if you would like. It's made out of basically a soft content yarn, but in a DK weight with the Emma's minis. When Cream City got a bunch of the DK minis, I had to buy all of them. And so I did. And I picked like a main color Emma's as well, and kind of a soft bluish gray. And so I had a ton of that. So I don't know, I can pass it around if anyone is interested in wanting to see.
Can you describe the doodle decks?
Yeah, doodle decks are like short charted patterns. So you can, it's like a stack of patterns. So you get to pick like color work patterns and just stack a whole bunch of them together. So you create kind of your own little custom design. So you can create your own little color work pattern. So like I just picked a bunch of different patterns and stacked them into my own little custom cowl. So.
She just released the book tonight too.
She did. She just released her book of kind of recipes, but she has also individual decks of winter, fall, summer, spring, her basics deck, monsters, farms,
Baking.
yeah, Christmas, baking. So she's got all different themes, fantasy. So, and then she just released her book today too. So strong recommend. Her website, I think, is Pacific Knit Co. And she is a lovely human being. So strongly recommend.
Specific
Thank you.
If not, that's fine too.
Okay, that concludes our program portion of the meeting. Okay, Charles, you have a 5-minute break and then we'll start the regular meeting.
Well, that
Don't forget to buy a book.
bigger, though.
You can also sign up for the retreat with me right now.
And you sign up for that retreat right now.
I told him.
Cardinal to New York.
Are you driving? Are you driving or flying?
I'll try to.
Yeah.
You want me to?
I'll drive, but it has to be your car.
Okay.
And there might have been in there who I haven't seen.
We can take
We
your
are a
train.
one-car family. I'm taking the train from Maine from Boston to Maine. So Maine color, this one, and then
You never know when you need that bridge.
this is the next one, you bring your yard forward,
No.
you slide it.
I'm just saying, it's interesting, you know. I agree with you.
Well, usually I glide and slide. So I always know, like, if there's 2 stitches there, that's the one that I'm doing. Yeah, well, and after the first couple, it's easier because like the white ones are normal.
You know.
Well, you don't accidentally turn it over and but she couldn't remember if it was in the book or not, but she gave us handout. And I was like, I should have done something this small, so that I always remember.
Yeah. I mixed it around and I was like, no, I want to make a part of it, so I see it. I actually sewed it together here.
Yeah.
But then I added the ribbon cover.
She showed us a hat that has the entries and it has like a pattern.
You finished our I did. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
I was color. Sorry. I just totally got out. Like, I know that.
Yeah. Right, so then that way, and then we have to do a regular bind off. Yeah, this yarn, I have made a whole thing. So many. It's really fun. I love it. Are you going to throw So are you enjoying this? There's a lot going on. Okay.
Okay, 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
We meet Tuesday morning on the third Tuesday of the month.
Okay. Oh, that's.
And take time to get lunch. Well, once you get to 12, you can just ride around.
No, I did, I learned it before, but yesterday I still took your class, and I was like,
You must be at work.
He knows when you locked it out.
Should I tell them to shut it?
So you want us to list?
Just your name and like one.
Because tonight I'm all thinking about you.
Oh, for the.
Or you get away too.
Yeah, I'm just doing the drive.
So I just need to get it until you get past.
Yeah. Okay. Did you put any text? Is that I think so, because they're all gonna go in a different gift basket, and so then every recipient knows. There's something.
I'm sorry, I wasn't cleaning.
Oh, no, you're fine.
You were,
I was meditating.
Okay, are we all set? Okay, so the business portion of the meeting is beginning officially.
Party
Okay,
time.
October. Okay, committee reports. I guess before we do that, can we get a motion to approve?
Can we open the meeting?
Yeah.
Motion?
We don't need a motion now.
No, we need a motion to approve the
Close.
minutes.
Oh, the minutes. I didn't read them.
A minute approval.
I move to approve this month's and last month's minutes of read.
Thank you, Lauren.
Second.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, bye, Annika.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. All right, so welcome to October's meeting. First, I'd love to thank Liza again for
Yay.
her wonderful presentation and just helping us to extend our ability to knit, which is, oh my goodness, a huge thing. So, last month's business meeting, there was some concern about communication. So, we gathered together as a board and we discussed communication and how, as the board, how as the membership is growing, to streamline communication. So a few things. These are suggestions, but in order to facilitate communication in the best way possible, we strongly suggest. So they are strong suggestions about how to communicate moving forward. So we're going to set aside what we used to do in the past, and this is the way that we've all decided as a board it would be most helpful to communicate to the board, the committee chairs, and then also to the board, the committee chairs, to the members, okay? So flow of communication. Members to board and committees will be up first. So why communicate? Well, we want a good flow of information. We want to ensure that everyone who is a member has a voice, and in order to facilitate that, there's multiple ways that you can get in touch with us. Why would you want to get in touch with, as a member, a committee chair? Well, you may not even realize, but the reasons why you would reach out to a committee chair would be a suggestion for a guild activity or an event. We strongly suggest you reach out first to a committee chair who is responsible for that area in the guild. If you're not sure, you can always ask someone and they would put you in touch, or you can reach out to myself or Jenna and we can get you in touch with that person. If you want to share events or information that happen outside of the guild. So, for instance, someone shared with us that there is in November a circular sock machine crank-in. So that is an outside guild event, but we want to share that because there might be people who also would be interested in that. So if you have something like that, please share it with the committee chair, and then they can proceed with either putting it on Facebook, social media, putting it in the newsletter, something to that effect. Okay, so members connecting with board members. You have an idea requiring the formation of a committee or a subcommittee that you would need to approach a board member and ask and inquire on that. If you have complaints or feedback, we want you to connect with a board member so that those issues can be addressed, either face-to-face or connecting as an entire board if it's something that we need to address as a board, and then back to the membership, okay? And then if you have questions regarding guild operations. So moving forward, this flow of communication. If you have a question about how the guild operates, we want you to reach out to a board member, okay? So how to communicate that? Well, first you have a few ways to do that. You can email. This is going to be the email that we use in order to facilitate consistent communication. And that is info@greatermilwaukeeknittingguild.com. Nicole, did you shake your head?
I'm just
okay.
dealing with myself.
I assume that's also, if you're on the website,
Yes.
that's where that's gonna direct you.
Yes. If you are on social media, like the Facebook page, or Instagram, or the YouTube About Us, or the website, those will all be, that email address will be listed, and that's how you can connect with us. Okay, so you can send us an email. You can also chat with us in person. And this goes to all board members, not just the board, but also committee chairs. So at meetings, during the social hour, meeting Q&A, when we have that at the end, which will be, take place as old business, new business, it's going to turn more into a Q&A. Also, we will be putting out a survey, so that will be another opportunity to share with the board members and the members ideas or information or feedback of any kind. And that will be forthcoming. If you're not sure right now, as a guest or a member, who the board or committee chairs are, we should all be wearing blue lanyards with the name tag, if you're not sure. Actually, let's have all the board members stand up. Great. Okay, all right, all friendly faces. Well, no, you're committee chairs. You're part of the committee chairs and board members at large, yes. So if you have any questions, they will be able to either help answer your question or facilitate an opportunity to discuss it with the correct person, okay? Great. All right. Now, this needs to be a two-way street. So, did you have questions, Susan?
May I?
Sure.
Okay, on the last slide, are you indicating that rather than provide feedback or something like that directly to a board member, that we should be emailing this info@greatermilwaukeeknittingguild.com email instead of going directly to you, for example?
Oh, no, you could choose either way. It's
Okay.
going to go and it's going to be available. If you send an email, it'll get triaged to the correct person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. So board members connecting and communicating with guild members. So we do that through committee reports, like this portion of the meeting. We will do that by requesting volunteers. If we have an event that requires assistance of some kind, we will solicit people to help with that. We will also inform you of any events or initiatives that might be coming up in the future, whether it is in the investigatory stage, the planning stage, or the moving forward and final stages. So we will inform you of those things. And then any changes that will affect the guild as a whole. So if there was a change to standing rules or a question about the bylaws or just anything like a meeting location or a time change, that will all be committed or communicated to you ahead of time so that you have that information. Any questions about that so far? Okay, so how we will, how the board communicates. We will do that through monthly meetings, such as tonight. We will do that through our website and through newsletters and social media. So 3 different ways in which, actually 4, that we will communicate with you to keep you informed of what's happening with the guild. So then this way, going forward, as the strongly suggested way of communicating, that's how we're moving forward from October on, okay? So, communication updates. You may have noticed, I don't know if you have, but we have been slowly decreasing the amount of activity that is happening on the Facebook group, okay? It has been archived because that group was started by one individual many years ago, I think about 6. And at that time, it was a way to communicate with the members. We have since grown to the point where it's becoming almost like a bottleneck of information. There's too much information on there and it's not categorized. It's also it was a public group and there were people who were posting things, spamming us, all different things. So we have been slowly closing that group so that we have a Facebook page, an official page, where that information will now be passed along. You can still comment on posts, but you may notice that you can't create posts. So you're not going to be able to create anything new. Well, how do you get information out there? Well, you email info@greatermilwaukeeknittingguild.com. You connect with a board member or a committee chair at a meeting, or at the social hour, or what have you. And we will move that information along as we feel it fits into the mission and vision of the guild. You can also like, follow, and subscribe on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Our Instagram account, unfortunately, got deleted by a previous member. And so we've lost all of our photos, so we had to create a new Instagram page for the guild. So that, if you go to look on the Instagram page, there's only a few pictures. We want to maintain that account so that things don't get lost. And the same with Facebook. We want to be able to really curate what we're putting out there for people who are searching for a knitting guild in the Milwaukee area, so that they can see it clearly. They see where we are meeting. They see where they can find information and how to become a member and what we're going to be talking about. In order for us to grow, we have to have clear communication, not only from members to the current board, but also moving forward in future years so that there's a streamline of information.
Question?
Yes.
Is there gonna, for everything that's posted on Facebook, will that also be available elsewhere for those of us that don't use Facebook? Or is Facebook the main thing and I will miss it?
No, the
Okay.
Facebook is not the main thing. Facebook, groups are different than pages. A page is like an organization and a nonprofit or a business, those are pages. Groups are free-for-alls, depending on how the group was formed and the settings. The main flow of information is going to be through our website. That's why we have a website now. So if you are a member, be sure to check that you are getting your newsletter emails. If you haven't received a newsletter in an email form, someone at a meeting or during social hour can help you with that. If you don't have access and can't get to it, you can always get to a website. So you don't have to go through your email to find it. You can go directly to the website, make sure you're logged in, and go under the member tab where all of that information is kept. And then you can see the bylaws, the meeting minutes, the standing rules, there will be a link to this video. It's going to be slowly moving away from being a free-for-all on YouTube to behind a paywall, so to speak, so that our speakers that come here, their content is also being protected as a member. Okay, any questions about that? Super. All right, so that is all I have. We'll move on to the treasurer report. So the beginning balance for September was $8,283.68. We had deposits, $386.49, expenditures, $524.62, with an ending balance currently of $8,145.55. Okay. All right, membership. Or I should say, Crystal is the treasurer, and she diligently keeps our records for us. So thank you, Crystal, for doing that. She also wanted to inform us that if anybody knows who Ann Sipple is, Crystal, not we. Crystal mailed this letter to her, and she was one of the state fair winners. And so it got returned to us. So if you are familiar with her or maybe know where she resides, we can get this award to her. So see Crystal after this meeting, or I can do some sleuthing. Okay? Great. So Mary Pat, she is taking care of membership from now going forward. She is all the way in the back. Give her a wave. Hello. We currently have 108 members, which is great. We keep growing, which is super. Tonight we have 37 members present and 2 guests. So I just want to welcome the 2 guests that are here. If you just want to raise your hand so we can see who you are. Thanks for coming. I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. We're very excited about it. If you are a current member but need to renew, the easiest way is to do that online, in person, at the table right back there, or by mail. If you want the mailing address, it is in your newsletter and can be found there. Okay? Thank you, Erica, for doing all of that legwork too and taking in mailing. And Mary Pat, thank you again. And then the check-in process and the check-out process is a little bit different. Again, trying to streamline so that people who are maybe coming in as guests or have questions about memberships are able to get their questions answered and feel welcomed and comfortable. Mary Pat is gonna be focused on that. So it's more of a self-serve opportunity for members. And you will pick up your name tag in alphabetical order, and then you're gonna cross your name off on that roster, and then that gives us our count for how many people are at a meeting. And then if you can, at the end of the night, return your name tag to that table and also tuck in that little cord for convenience. She doesn't have to wrangle. You all know what it's like to untangle yarn. All right. Okay, community warmth. I am inviting Susan to come up and give a little update. Actually, have your slides separated. Get to see. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Hi, thank you, everyone. I'm Susan Silseth, if I haven't met you yet. I'm the Community Warmth Chair. And I wanted to just share a few updates. So here we go. Our current quarterly drive, which as we talked about last meeting, we are continuing doing a quarterly drive supporting one specific goal and mission. And then every quarter we'll come up with a new thing to focus on. And that's sort of the donations that we'll accept are in that particular vein, and then we'll take them to that facility and, rotate different organizations that we're going to focus on every quarter. So the current one is benefiting the Women's Center of Waukesha. If you want more information about the Women's Center, they do have a website and a ton of information about it. This particular drive, we're going to take through the November meeting. So we are making washcloths and similar. There's a ton of them on the back table, so I'm really excited to see all of them coming back. There are also kits in the back, so if you need additional cotton, we've got one more month to create these. This particular drive is going to support their holiday gift baskets that they provide to their patrons, both the individuals that stay on site or come into the center to use their services. So they're looking to put together about 100 different baskets, and I'm partnering with the community, I think they call it like community events or something, leader to coordinate putting something of ours into each basket. So to that end, well, I did have a little community knit at my house a couple weeks ago. So we worked on a bunch of washcloths. So that's what one of those pictures is. And then I took a picture of what I had received after that date. So a lot of really good progress. What I do ask is two things. When you are turning in donated items, we are attaching tags to each item. And that's because sometimes people receiving our items don't know how to treat them. And so either they're afraid to use it, or they don't know how to launder it properly. And so we are attaching tags. I have a pile of them back there, along with ribbon, if you want to just cut a little piece and attach it to each of your items. That would be fabulous. The second piece is, in order to do all of my tracking and all that kind of stuff, I am keeping a log of donations with your name and quantity of how much was donated. As of, before this meeting, I had donations received from 7 individuals and about 38 items already before even tonight. I think tonight we've at least tripled what we had received so far. So really great progress. I think we're probably at 100, but wouldn't it be great if we had multiple washcloths, so they could have one for each member of their family, or, some for bodies and some for dishes, or, something like that. So keep them coming. Really proud of the effort so far, and keep up the good work. Okay, so the next quarterly drive is going to be for Milwaukee Public Schools. And we're gonna do cold weather accessories. This has been done before, so nothing crazy new, but we are gonna start collecting those as early as next month if you have already started making hats or scarves or anything like that. So we're gonna do November, December, January, and February, and wrap up this quarterly drive February 2025. So MPS is asking for adult sizes of things, so nothing too small, because most of the people that they're finding that need items are not the littlest kids, but sort of ones with, maybe adult small size heads, or even adult large. They can always roll them up, and scarves are kind of one size. So along with the MPS items that I'll start collecting, I'm happy to collect yarns that can be made into those things so that we can provide kits back to the members too, in case you'd rather use donated yarn, or I don't know, just have a little variety to knit with. And I'd also like to organize a crank in. So similar to what Lisa mentioned that is happening in Lake Country in November, I thought it would be kind of a fun event to do a whole bunch of hats or head warmers, ear warmers for MPS. So if anyone has a circular knitting machine, the typical brands are Centro and Addy. Both of those are common. Usually 40 something pegs are good for this. So I'm gonna come out with a date. It's probably gonna be in January after, the holiday season, when people maybe have more time open. But I'll book sometime at a library or something, and we can try to create as many hats as we can. The hats, when you're using the machine, take like 20 minutes to make like a double thick, awesome hat. So I think we could really get a lot done. So if anyone, especially if you have a knitting machine and you don't know how to use it, I'm gonna try to go slow so we can at least do the first one together and do some education about it too, so we can troubleshoot and, all kind of work on it together. So lastly, if you are interested in helping to coordinate and plan any of the quarterly drives, feel free to join the committee. I do have a sign-up sheet also where I'm sitting, but feel free to just come up and introduce yourself after the meeting. Tonight we are gonna have a little, hopefully a brief, maybe 30-minute meeting at Yo Mama, right down the street, getting a little froyo and talking about some of the next quarterly drives for the year. So feel free to, come talk to me, and I'll pass around the sign-up sheet for items that are donated so that we can keep track. And then like I said, there's tags in the back and ribbon in the back if you'd like to attach them to each of your items. Otherwise, if you don't do it, someone from the committee will attach it on your behalf. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Susan, for all of that fun organization. Okay, now I gotta go back out of this, go over here. Okay. All right, education. Lauren, would you like to come up and give an update, or are you good with me reading it?
You can read it.
Okay,
That's
super. All right, so she has connected with the West Dallas, West Milwaukee Rec Department, and she will be teaching a Learn to Knit class 4 Saturdays, March 1st, 8th, 15th, and 22nd. This was included in the newsletter and it will be on the website. But she is in need of 2 teachers who feel comfortable teaching children. No, adults. Oh, adults. Teaching adults how to knit for an hour on a Saturday and spread the love and joy of knitting. All right, so see Lauren if you have time to do that. I know that she will get you directed in the right direction. I don't know.
I have
Yes.
a question to that. Is there a certain way to teach, like flowing or picking?
It's whatever's gonna be comfortable for the learner.
Mhm.
Everyone learns differently, everyone's most comfortable in a certain way, so.
Both ways.
So I just kind of teach both ways and whatever's comfortable for them.
Yeah, so whoever would help,
Mhm.
it wouldn't matter.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then planning ahead for education. She's also connected with Milwaukee Public Library and in the future also local colleges and university campuses to do some learn to knit sessions and craft along. So that is something if you are interested in or have a connection to someone in those areas, like see Lauren for that information. Okay? All right, programs. Next month, we had a little bit of a change and our program will be done on Knit Companion. Lauren will be giving a tutorial on how to use Knit Companion. If you don't know what Knit Companion is, now is your chance to go online and Google Knit Companion. Essentially, it is a knitting program that you use on your laptop or iPad or other device to help you streamline your knitting. Okay, and so we will have more information on that specific meeting in the next couple of weeks. Website, newsletter, social media. All right, events coming up. Finish it February. That is a long way away, but it really, I can't even believe it's October, so it'll be here before you know it. This information is in the newsletter. It's also on the website, and it'll be promoted on socials, so come out to that. And then finally, our newsletter and our website. Erica has diligently worked very hard to get information up in a timely and accurate manner. So I just want to give her a shout out for always being on the ball and working full time and doing all the things. So the newsletter is always sent via email and also available on our website. So it's a little peek of it. Okay, any questions? This is your chance to ask Lauren.
Comment actually
Great.
to say as part of my progress and ideas on expanding kind of the education committee, one of the goals that I would like is to make sure that all the help that you may need as members is offered as my role as education chair. And that can mean if you're having difficulty accessing the website or the newsletter, please come to me. I am happy to help you. If you're having difficulty logging in, getting it set up, please come and ask me. I am so happy to help you with any of the technology issues or hurdles that you may be struggling with. That is my role as education chair.
Great. Thank you. Susan, did you have a question from previous?
Yeah, I had a question for Lauren. So for the West Dallas, West Milwaukee, do you have an idea of class size or?
I asked them to have no greater than 10 students.
Okay, and then, are you looking for the same one teacher to commit to all of the Saturdays or?
I
can
am,
it be?
it's just gotta be 2 teachers per class, just because I don't think one teacher can handle 10 students. I think that's too many students for one person to take on it.
Yeah. And then, do you have like lesson one's gonna be this thing, lesson two's
I have
gonna
an
be.
idea of it where like it'll be, I
She has a
have kind of
concept of
general
a plan.
subjects of casting on, garter
There's a
stitch,
concept of a plan.
stockinette stitch, ribbing, casting off. And then like if there's some advanced folks that are really getting it, we can talk about like increasing and decreasing.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Not going for brioche in that class? I'll be teaching brioche by then.
You know it. You know it.
Some not to it.
I'll put it down.
Okay. Any final questions that I can answer for you? Superb. Okay. So to wrap up, thank you all for being here. We are so grateful to Liza for being here and spending time. We wish you safe travels. Namaste. And do I have a motion to close the meeting?
Can I also say one thing?
Yes, you may.
I would like to thank Nicole for all her help with Liza,
Yes.
picking her up from the airport, letting her stay at her home,
Oh, my goodness,
taking her
yes.
back to the airport, driving her around all
Don't
over.
think we have a secret plan to hang out with
Yes. Thank you, Nicole. All right, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Oh, did we take a
We didn't
motion?
Okay,
Close the meeting.
no, sorry. I'm new to Robert's rules. Be kind.
I make a motion that we close the meeting.
Okay, Jenna, all approved.
You guys always.
All right, be sure to, okay, it's passed. You may all leave. Make sure you either QR scan to fill out the program survey. This is super helpful in your chance to give feedback. So,
Don't just answer strongly agree on them, because one of them is this program was a waste of my time. So read the questions.
read the questions. Strongly disagree on that one.
Yay, thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Yay! This was my favorite.
This is my favorite program ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm like 4 blocks away.